Alrighty, welcome to lesson 13. We are moving right along in Eureka Math. So this is our objective today, and it's very similar to what we did yesterday. It's we will be able to interpret. Remember, interpret means to understand. Okay, it's a fancy word for it. To interpret the quotient. Ooh, what does quotient mean? Does anybody remember from yesterday? Quotient means, what does it mean? Oh, it means the answer in division. So if we had 6 divided by 2 equals 3, 3 is the quotient. Okay, so we will be able to interpret the quotient, or the answer, as the number of groups or the number of objects in each group, so the size of the groups, using units of 3. Does anybody remember what units we used yesterday? We used 2 yesterday. So today we're doing the same thing, so we're trying to figure out what the number of groups are, or we're trying to figure out the number of objects in each group, or the size of the group, using units of 3 now. Okie dokie, artichoke. Before we get started, I thought today we could do a little warm up. So if you need to get your whiteboard and your expo marker and your eraser, you can pause the video now and get those things. Here is our first warm up. You need to solve this multiplication sentence and division equation. So we have 2 times 3 equals 6. If you're not sure how to complete this, stick with me. If you are sure and you want to try to challenge yourself to do this on your own, go ahead and pause the video and challenge yourself to do this on your own. If you're not sure, you can stick with me. You don't have to pause. So 2 times 3 is, let's see, 2, 4, 6. See how I skip counted with my fingers to figure out the answer? 2, 4, 6. So I know the answer is, on my snap, 6. Now we've been talking about how multiplication is the opposite of division. So in division here, what number would go here? If we have blank divided by 3 equals 2, what number would go there? It would be 6, right? Because we're doing the opposite of this equation. So 6, which is the total, or the total, divided by 3 equals 2. So that's what you should have gotten. All right, now this one I want everybody to try on their own. Even if you didn't pause last time, try this one on your own. So pause the video and try it on your own, using your fingers to help you skip count. Okay, so we have 3 times 3. Let's skip count. Ready? 3, 6, 9. So we know 3 times 3 is 9. And remember yesterday I talked about how we can make a number line? So you could do skip count by 3s and make a number line on your paper to help you solve these problems. That's a really good way to help you until you start to get until you start to memorize your multiplication facts. Okay. 27 and 30. Okay, so if you want to do this on a separate piece of paper, you can. Okay, now we know that multiplication is the what? It's the opposite of division. So here we have blank divided by 3 equals 3. What goes here? Well, 9 goes here because that's the total, right? Good job. Okay, hopefully you guys got those ones right. Pretty easy, right? All right, here is our application problem. If you would like to follow along with me and write it in your Learn books, it is on page 77. Page 77. So again, feel free to pause the video anytime. All right. Mark spends $16 on 2 video games. Ooh, I see some important numbers here that I need to circle. Which ones do you think they are? Well, there's 16 and 2. Let's look at what 16 means so far. What does that represent, 16? Mark spends $16 on 2 video games. Oh, I think that this means the total. Now, what does the 2 represent? Is that representing the size of the group or the number of groups? Mark spends $16 on 2 video games. I don't know. I'm going to write this down here. I want you guys to think about that for a second. Good. So this is the number of groups, right? He's doing 2 video games. Each game costs the same amount. So we don't know the size of the group. We don't know how much he spent on each game, right? But we know that he has 2 groups. He has 2 video games. Find the cost of each game. So we know the question is this one. Find the cost of each game. Okay, well, I think I read it. I need to draw it now, and then I'll write it. So I'm going to draw a tape diagram because that's what we've really been focusing on, is doing that. Since we know the size of the groups, and we know there's 2, right? I'm going to draw 2 groups in my tape diagram. 1, 2. And I want to look at this. What does this whole tape diagram represent? Well, it represents the total, right? Which is $16. It also represents 2 groups, or 2 video games. 1 video game, 2 video games. 1 group, 2 groups. This is what we need to figure out. We need to figure out the size of the group, or how much he spent on each video game. So in order to do that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 dot in each group until I get to 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Ooh. And before I go any further, I forgot to fill out what I already know. So I know my total was 16. I know the size, or the number of groups was what? 2. Now I'm figuring out the size of the group, or how much each video costed. So let's figure that out. How do we figure that out? Well, we just count how many are in each group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So each of these costed $8. Okay, so we drew it. Now we're going to write it. Mark spent $8 on each video game. Ta-da! All right, moving on to the next. Now we're going to get into our lesson. And it's a review from yesterday, really. But we're just going to be working with units of 3 instead of 2. So I'm going to demonstrate one of these problems, and then I'm going to have you guys do 2 on your own to see if you get what I get. So here we go. We need to read the problem first. A school buys 12 boxes of pencils. Each classroom gets 3 boxes. How many classrooms get boxes of pencils? So we know, or I'm going to circle my numbers here. What do we know? Well, we know that 12 is, 12, this represents the total, right? That's the total boxes. There's 12 boxes of pencils. And we know that each classroom gets 3 boxes. So we know the size of the groups, right? We know that each classroom gets 3 boxes of pencils. What we don't know is how many classrooms get boxes of pencils. So we need to figure out how many groups. That's what this represents. We're trying to figure out how many. This is the number of groups. Okay, so how do we solve this? Well, first I want you guys to look at this. Do you see how there's a dotted line? This is a really good way to do a tape diagram if you don't know the number of groups. That way, if you, like yesterday, I had to kind of erase and I had to add on to my tape diagram. This will be easier if you just do dotted lines like this. That way, if you need to make it a little bit bigger, it's going to be a little bit easier. Okay, that's why we have dotted lines, because we don't know the number of groups yet. But we know each class gets 3 boxes. So I think that the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my division problem. And I want to look at what do I know already so I can fill it into my division equation. Okay, well I know the total, right? The total was 12. And that always goes first. I'm sure you guys are getting tired of me saying that. And then the second thing I know is what? I know the size of the groups. I know that they each get 3 boxes of pencils. So I'm going to put 3 here. So now I need to figure out my quotient, right? I need to find the total. So I need to know the number. That's what I'm trying to figure out here, the number of groups. And when you're doing these problems, that's what you need to try and think about. What am I trying to figure out? Am I trying to figure out the number of groups? Or am I trying to figure out the size of the group? Okay? And that will help you solve these problems if you can figure that out. Okay, so we are going to be skip counting by 3s, and that's the best way to solve this problem, is to skip count by 3s until we get to 12, okay? And remember, if you have your number line, it will make it a lot easier for you to solve this if you don't know how to skip count by 3s yet. Okay, so we're going to start with 3, and then I'm going to add another box. 6. Oops, I shouldn't put 6 there. I'm going to put 3. 6, 9, 12. There we go. That was pretty easy, right? So now do I know how many classrooms I had to give 3 boxes of pencils to? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. I had to give, each classroom got 3 boxes of pencils, but there's 4 classrooms that got those boxes of pencils. So that is 4. Okay, now it is your turn to try this one on your own. I'm going to read it to you. We will set up the problem, and then I want you to do it on your own. If you want to challenge yourself and not wait for me to tell you to pause, you can start right now. Okay? All right, I know that I'm going to do a division problem. So I'm going to set up my division problem already. Let's read the question here. Chad bought some books for $21. Ooh, I'm going to circle that. If each book costs $3, so we know that it costs $3, how many books did he buy? Well, I know I need to do a tape diagram. But at first, I want to figure out, what do these numbers mean? What does 21 mean? Think about that. What does that mean? What does it represent? Does it represent the size of the group? Does it represent the number of groups? Does it represent the total? What does it represent? And then fill it in down here. And then 3, what does 3 represent? Does it represent the size of the group or the number of groups? And what's the question? How many books did he buy? What does that mean? Does that mean the size of the group or the number of groups? And then I want you to start your tape diagram to see if you can solve this problem. Pause the video and label your tape diagram and then see if you got it right. Okay, here we go. So we know, what do we know? We know that 21 is what? It's the total. That's how much he bought some books for $21. That's the total. So I can put that into my division equation right away. Okay. Now each book costs $3. Does that mean the size of the group or the number of groups? Well, that's the size of the group. We don't know how many books he bought, right? That would be the number of groups. So we know that this is 3. That's the size of the group. Okay, so I don't know the number of groups. So I'm going to do my dotted line. And I might have made this too big, and that's okay. Okay, or maybe I made it too small. Who knows, right? So I know that this, and hopefully you labeled your tape diagram. Your total is 21. So I know this whole thing is going to represent 21. I know that this represents $3 for each book. I don't know how many books. So that was the number of books or the number of groups, right? Okay, so let's figure it out. Let's count by what? What are we going to count by? We're going to count by 3s to figure this out. Ready? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Ooh, I didn't make it big enough. 18, 21. There we go. So now I can make solid lines over those dots. All right, so now oops, I didn't mean to put 15 there. I meant to put 3. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so I think I was saying it, so I wrote it down. Okay, so now I know how many books that they bought, right? The number of books or the number of groups. So let's count. Ready? How many groups we have or how many books? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ta-da! So we have 7. How many books did he buy? He bought 7 books. All right, last one, and then you guys will do your independent work. So if you want to pause the video now and you can do this one on your own, see if you get it right, or if you want to follow along with me for a little bit, and then that's okay too, whatever you feel comfortable with right now. Margot spent $18 on 3 new binders. I'm going to circle those numbers. If each binder costs the same amount, how much does each binder cost? There's our question. How much does each binder cost? Well, right away, I know I need to set up my division problem, right? And I'm going to start filling in what I know. Well, what does 18 represent? What does 3 represent? Does 3 represent the number of groups or the size of the group? And then I want you to try and do a tape diagram to help you solve this problem. So pause the video, see if you get it right. Okay, here we go. So we know that 18, what does that represent? Is that the size of the group, the number of groups, or the total? That's the total, right? You guys should get that by now. Total. All right, now let's look at the 3. Margot spent $18 on 3 new binders. Is that the size of the groups or the number of groups? You should have noticed that that is the number of groups or the number of books, okay? So I'm going to automatically draw a tape diagram that has 3 groups or 3. Each box represents 1 book, okay? So here I can already label this one. This one it represents the total, which is $18, and also represents the number of books, which is 3. Okay, so this is what we're trying to figure out. What are we trying to figure out here? We're trying to figure out the size of the group. So how much did Margot spend on each book? Okay, how much did she spend on each book? How can we figure that out? Well, I can again skip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put dots in each box to see until I get to 18. Okay. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Ooh, now we know how many are in, how much Margot spent on each book, or how much is in one group, right? And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we figured it out. It is $6 for each book. So this was the the size of the group. Number of groups. Okay, good job, you guys. Before, I wanted to also show you what you could have also done is you could have skip counted and put, since we're skip counting by threes, we could have done that too. So this is just another way to do it. You could have gone, you could have done 3 dots. 1, 2, 3. So 3, 6. Let me do a different marker so it makes sense. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 18. So you could have also done it that way instead of doing 1 dot at a time in each box. And if you did it that way, very cool. Okay, let's see what we're doing today. We are doing, open up the page I need here. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so we are gonna fill in on number 1. They want you to fill in the blank to make it a true number sentence. And that's what we did at the beginning of class. So if you guys remember this, you filled in what the blank was. Okay, so you're gonna do that for number 1. Number 2, so these are all units of 3. So you're gonna circle, he divides the tomatoes into bags of 3. So each tomato, there's 3 tomatoes in each bag. And then they want you to draw a tape diagram, just like we were doing. Draw a tape diagram to represent this problem, okay? And there's your division sentence down there. Can you see it? Division equation is down there. And then same kind of thing, what we were just working on. I think you guys are gonna do just fine on it. Don't let this trick you here. It says 30 third graders. So this is the number 30. So that's one of your important numbers. Okay, so make sure you just change that into 30. Don't let that trip you up. All right, that is on page 79 and 80. Good job today. Pat yourselves on the back and kiss your brain. I'll see you later.